Hi, Walter Carter here with one of the more than 200 Les Paul signature models that Gibson has made through the years, and one of the more unusual and more obscure, even though the official model name is Les Paul Signature. This guitar came out in 1973, but let's go back a little bit to figure out why it came about. As we all know, Les started his relationship with Gibson in 1952 with the Les Paul model, as it was called then, the Gold Top, as we call it now, mostly, and Les Paul Standard, as it became. And Les's input into that guitar may have been relegated to the combination bridge tailpiece, the trapeze tailpiece that didn't work so well on that guitar. So Gibson did eventually 4 models in the 50s, and then changed the body shape because the models were not selling well. Changed to the SG shape. In the meantime, Les's relationship with Gibson was deteriorating, at least his personal relationship with Ted McCarty, the head of Gibson. His contract was running out, his star was fading, he wasn't nearly as popular in 1962 as he had been in 52. So he left Gibson. Gibson proceeded to make SGs without Les's name on them and did well for a while, but then a funny thing happened in the 60s. Players started discovering the 50s Les Paul, and to the extent that Gibson saw the need to bring them back in the original form, and of course they needed Les to do that. So in 1968, Les re-upped with Gibson, and I don't know if it was part of his contract or part of the agreement, but they thought it would be a good idea if Les would have some models, a model or models that would have his own personal input more so than the originals. So they did 2 levels of Les's sort of personal preferences. The Les Paul Personal and the Les Paul Professional that within a few years were rolled into one model called the Les Paul Recording that was somewhat successful through the 70s. They also did a flat top, which may be even more obscure than this guitar, called the Les Paul Jumbo. All of those models had Les's personal preference in pickups, and that was low impedance pickups. Les liked a clean sound, and he liked to get it by just plugging his guitar directly into the studio board. Now, around 1973, it looks like maybe somebody went, oops, what about a semi-hollow? We've got solid bodies. We've got Les's name on a flat top that had a pickup on it. And so there's one genre left in the Gibson line, and that's the hollow body or semi-hollow body electric. So they came up with this model. What the inspiration was, it's hard to say. The asymmetrical body gives the appearance of being influenced by the offset, like Jaguar and Jazzmasters that Fender was doing, although the waists are actually don't appear to be offset. If they are, it's not by much. And then the Cutaway. This Cutaway is designed more like the Les Paul solid bodies than this one. So it gives a modernistic appearance. It's got the low impedance pickups. Now, it was probably obvious by this time that not everybody liked low impedance pickups, so there is an output for standard high impedance. And there's one over here for the low impedance, although it's a 1/4 inch jack, not the kind of jack that would go direct typically. The controls are a little bit different. They've got some of the features that Les's solid bodies had. You've got a volume, tone, then you've got a sort of a tone cut with 3 different positions and a phaser, in and out phaser switch. So there you have it. Who was it designed for? Who used it? Not very many people. The finish on most of these was gold top, which identifies it as Les. Why they would call it the signature model is something I can't understand, because I would call all of the Les Paul models signature models, as we typically do in the context of artist signature models. But maybe to call attention to this guitar, maybe they felt it would need attention, it's called Les Paul Signature. As far as I know, Les never used this guitar, this model, on anything. And not too many other people did either. It lasted about 5 years in production through 1978. It sold about 1,500 units, most of which were gold topped. There was a sunburst version, and then that was it. Now, the legacy is kind of interesting. Fender apparently saw this guitar, and maybe this was a ruse all along to get Fender to throw money down a rabbit hole. They came with the Starcaster, which had an asymmetrical body also, and a semi-hollow design, right as this guitar was going out of production. So you saw a similar guitar in the Fender line, but not for very long. And then the bass version of this also was not too successful, except Jack Cassidy of Jefferson Airplane and Jefferson Starship and Hot Tuna played the bass version, and it eventually was reissued as the Jack Cassidy model in the Epiphone line. So this model lives on as the Jack Cassidy bass, but the guitar really never found a home. So if anyone wants their own identifiable signature guitar, maybe the Les Paul Signature is it. Anyone want a Les Paul Signature? Anyone? Anyone?